Stop wasting your time going over and over again. Our brain tends to look for the information that we are familiar. They are usually exercises or questions. Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chichiman Salim. Okay, I don't really know why, but I feel like speaking in English for this video, so remember to turn on CC for Chinese subtitles. Hopefully you can understand my English here, and this is my first official full English video. Alright, so in the past when I did stationery unboxing as well as finals vlog, people have requested me to do videos for study tips. I was not really sure if people would really like to watch this kind of video, nor was I super confident to share my own tips. But since there were requests, I will make one for you today. And if you like this kind of video, make sure to like it so I know that I can make more of this in the future. There are 3 parts to this video: taking notes, what you should do in class, as well as reading textbook techniques. Okay, first of all, let's talk about notes taking. In the past, I love to take notes. So whenever there's exam periods, what I most look forward to is taking notes. I understand that many people may think that taking pretty notes is a waste of time, but for me, it used to be my only motivation to study, basically. Here's a book of notes I did for grade 9. They were quite simple, but I still apply the similar methods because it is what worked for me. First, how do I take notes? I always remember to differentiate between the topics, subtopics, as well as the information using different colors and different sizes. So here's an example. The topic is space and the subtopics are measurements, vocabs, galaxy, black hole, etc. So whenever I study, I'll study in order first, remembering the subtitles and the information below. And this is kind of like a picture memory for me. So whenever I do my exam or test, I can remember where the information is located in my notes, visually in my head, if that makes sense. The subtitles are the main points, aka key learning objectives, and the bullet points below are the explanation to each objective. Along the way, I will use a pencil to draw a star next to the subtitles that I wasn't so sure about. So whenever I have an exam, I'll go back to the stars and I'll read that first. And once I'm familiar with the topic, I'll erase the star immediately. And that saved me a lot of time to try and look for the topics that I wasn't familiar about. Even though I haven't done any scientific research, but based on my own experience, our brain tends to look for the information that we are familiar because we're more comfortable with it. So I would suggest you to stop wasting your time going over and over again the information that you already know and focus on the topics that you're not confident with. I also like to use colors. Usually black pen is for the main points because they're usually longer in paragraphs. So if it's in another color like pink or blue or orange, my eyes will go crazy. So black pen is for the main information. Other colors and highlighters are for the keywords. I've moved on to taking notes on my iPad during my diploma program, but that's a whole other topic that I could discuss about in the future if you guys like it. So remember to like this video. Here's an example of the notes I took in my iPad and I printed them out. So as you can see, the methods are quite similar. I like to differentiate the topic, subtopics, and main points. And the main points are usually in black pen, and I'll highlight the keywords that I need to remember. Next, when do I take notes? Usually I only take notes right before the test because that's how I remember the best, because if I did the notes in advance, I will have a tendency to remember fairly quickly. So normally what I do is for quizzes and small tests, I will do the notes before it, and then for the final exam, I will read over the notes I already taken. And that's it for notes. Next, what should you do in class? I really recommend you to read over the textbook or PowerPoint if that's the case, only if they're available for you. And then when you're reading the textbook before class, remember to prepare at least one question to ask. If the question is already answered in the lesson without the need to ask your teacher, then that's great, because for me, I would prefer not to ask so many questions in class. But if you still have concerns, or if you're still confused or new questions popped up, then feel free to ask your teacher, because I'm sure most of the teachers are willing to help and they're glad that you're participating in class. And it is extremely important to pay attention in class, because I noticed from my own experience that whenever I miss a class, everything that I miss will not be remarkable in my memory, even when I studied myself afterwards. Maybe because I'm more of a listening and visual learner, I need to physically see the teacher in order for me to remember better. So maybe that's why online classes were tough for me. Just remember, guys, not to skip class. Even if you're in class, pay attention. Don't do other things. Pay attention to your teacher, because usually the teachers are the ones that will tell you the key information that they will put on the test. And after class, I recommend you to look over your notes, and if you have time, you can reorganize them. But if you don't really have time, which is usually the case, you can just read over the notes. And because usually the notes you take in class are quite messy, so you have to know what you wrote, and a few days after you can reorganize them. If you don't read it, I can guarantee you a few days after you cannot understand what you wrote on the paper. Lastly, I'd like to share some tips and my own methods of reading the textbook. I used to just read the textbook over and over again, and it really took a lot of time, wasted a lot of time actually, to just get my head around what the topic is about. So now this is what I do, and it worked for me. Okay, let me open my textbook. So here's my chemistry DP textbook. First, I will look at the topic first, which is Lewis acids and bases, and then I'll read the understandings and applications and skills. If your textbook doesn't have this, don't worry, just move on to the next one. Now look at the subtopics. The subtopics are usually bigger in fonts, and they tell you what they're focusing on. And then before reading the actual information and texts, I will go to the end of the chapter. There are usually exercises or questions, and usually the questions will consist of the key ideas of this topic. For example, the first one asks to identify the Lewis acid and the Lewis base, and the second question asks about the ligand, and the third question asks about Lewis theory, but not according to Bronsted-Lowry theory. So with all of this information gathered, you will know that this topic consists of 3 key ideas. Number 1, how to identify Lewis acid and bases. Number 2, what is a ligand? And number 3, the differences between the Lewis and Bronsted-Lowry theories of acids and bases. And finally, once I have an idea of that, I'll go back to the top and start reading the content and highlight the information along the way that could possibly answer the questions below. And those are the techniques I use when I read the textbook. And that's it for my tips to ace your tests, hopefully. I really hope they're helpful. I actually have more to share, and I really enjoy sharing them, but I can only continue to do it if you guys like it and share it to others, because more views and engagement will give me an indication that you guys enjoy it. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. See you next time. Bye bye!